The books want you to take the over on Nick Pivetta, 5.5 strikeouts, plus a strong opponent in the Phillies. But dig deeper and the numbers tell a different story. This is one of the worst matchups on the slate. Let's start with Game 1 on the board. Nick Pivetta versus Christopher Sanchez. Padres versus Phillies. Starting with Pivetta, who's taking the mound for the San Diego Padres. His strikeout line is set at 5.5 Ks, with the under at plus 105. Now here's the issue. He's facing a Phillies lineup that's among the most complete in baseball. Philadelphia ranks 7th in hits, 7th in batting average, 4th in OBP, top 10 in runs, slugging, OPS, and runs created. And even more importantly for a strikeout prop, they're 9th in fewest strikeouts and 8th in walk-to-strikeout ratio. This is a disciplined, productive offense across the board. That's why this matchup grades as an F for Pivetta. A brutal spot to expect 6+ strikeouts, especially when the under is plus money. Split Labs prediction. Lean under on Pivetta 5.5 Ks. Now to Christopher Sanchez starting for the Phillies, with his strikeout line at 4.5 Ks, near even money on both sides. He draws a matchup against a Padres lineup that's deceptive. While their overall production is weak, bottom 10 in home runs, runs, slugging, and extra base hits, they actually don't strike out much. 3rd in fewest strikeouts, 3rd in walk-to-strikeout ratio. So despite their lack of power, they're putting the ball in play and grinding out at-bats, making them a tough strikeout target. Sanchez gets a C grade here, meaning the data is mixed. He could go over if he's efficient, but it's not a clean edge. In these spots, we pass unless something shifts. Split Labs verdict, no bet on Sanchez 4.5 Ks. So to recap, lean under on Pivetta 5.5 Ks versus a stacked Phillies lineup. No bet on Sanchez 4.5 Ks versus a low strikeout. Real quick, if you're into breakdowns like this, you'll love what we've got going on at splitlabs.net. We track public betting splits across every sport. NBA, MLB, NFL, you name it. Plus matchup insights, team rankings, and even prop predictors to help you spot edges before the lines move. This isn't just picks. It's the same data the books are using to set prices, and we make it easy to read and actually use. You can try it free for 7 days, and if you like it, use code YouTube for 50% off your first month. No BS, no sportsbook affiliation, just clean, transparent data for smarter betting. All right, back to the breakdown. Next up, Max Fried versus Kevin Gausman, Yankees and Blue Jays. Let's start with Max Fried, who gets the ball for the Yankees. His strikeout line is set at 5.5, with the under juiced at minus 130. The matchup? Not great. He's going up against a Toronto team that quietly leads the league in strikeout avoidance, ranked number 1 in fewest strikeouts and number 1 in walk-to-strikeout ratio. Even though the Jays rank middle of the pack in most offensive categories, 21st in home runs, 17th in slugging, 13th in runs created, they're a nightmare to strike out. They put the ball in play and rarely chase. That's why this gets a D grade for Fried. It's not a complete shutdown matchup, but there's very little ceiling here. Getting 6 strikeouts against the best plate discipline team in the league? That's a tall order. Split Labs prediction, under on Fried 5.5 Ks. Now let's look at Kevin Gausman taking the hill for Toronto. His line is at 6.5 Ks with the under heavily juiced to negative 140, signaling hesitation from the market, and the data agrees. Gausman's facing a Yankees team that's near elite in almost every offensive metric. 2nd in home runs, top 5 in runs, OBP, SLG, OPS, runs created and critically, 26th in strikeouts, meaning they strike out a ton. That sounds great for Gausman, right? Not quite, because this is where things get tricky. While the Yankees do strike out a lot, the matchup still gets an F. Why? Because the juice on the under combined with the run risk, Gausman allows 2.8 ER on average, suggests he may not pitch deep enough to hit his line. It's also possible the Yankees' power-heavy approach leads to quicker runs, not longer counts. So even though the strikeout matchup looks great on paper, the predictor is cautious, and this one's labeled a toss-up with a lean towards the under. Split Lab's verdict. No play, but if anything, lean under on Gausman's 6.5 Ks if you can make a better case for it than our data picked up. So just to recap Game 2, we're going under on Max Fried 5.5 Ks versus the most disciplined lineup in baseball. Pass on Kevin Gausman. 6.5 Ks. Despite a strikeout-heavy opponent, data says pump the brakes. This is the kind of game where most bettors get baited. Fried against a quiet Jays offense and Gausman versus a whiff-happy Yankees team. But the reality, it's not that simple, and that's why we built this tool. Alright, before we hit Game 3, let's pause real quick because it's almost the 4th of July and I gotta ask, what's the move this year? Are we Team Grillmaster and chill? Or team watch fireworks while secretly refreshing K-props on your phone? Personally, give me a burger, a glizzy, and one of those weird red, white, and blue popsicles, and I'm locked in. But honestly, if Fried vs. Gausman goes how we think, I might need a second plate just to cope. Drop your go-to 4th of July food in the comments. Burgers, dogs, ribs. Or are you just here for the desserts? Also, if you're betting strikeout props while lighting fireworks, please send us a video for science. All right. Game 3 takes us to Houston with Colton Gordon versus Chase DeLander, Astros versus Rockies. Let's start with Colton Gordon for the Astros. His strikeout line is 4.5 Ks, but the over is sitting at plus 120, so the books aren't totally sold on him clearing it. But here's the thing. This matchup is about as good as it gets. He's facing a Rockies team that is 30th in strikeouts, 30th in OBP, 30th in walk-to-strikeout ratio, 28th in batting average and runs. This is the most strikeout-prone team in baseball, and it's not even close. They don't walk, they don't make contact, and they don't scare you with power either. So why the plus money on the over? It's probably tied to Gordon's average usage, only 5.0 innings per start, and less than 5 strikeouts on average. But against this offense, even average efficiency might be enough. Split Labs gives it a B grade and says, take the plus money shot. Over on Gordon, 4.5 Ks. Now switching sides, Chase DeLander goes for the Rockies. His line is 3.5 Ks with the underjuice to negative 135. And it makes sense. He's facing a Houston team that's top 6 in batting average and strikeout avoidance. Top 15 across the board in OBP, SLG, OPS, and walk-to-strikeout ratio. Even when they're not scoring a ton of runs, they're putting the ball in play and grinding out at bats. This is a very tough team to strike out, especially for a young arm who hasn't proven he can miss bats consistently. Split Labs gives it a D grade, and we're leaning under on DeLander 3.5 Ks. Game 3. Recap. Over Colton Gordon, 4.5 Ks plus 120 versus MLB's most strikeout-prone lineup. Under on DeLander, 3.5 Ks versus a contact-heavy Astros team. This is the kind of value play that slips past most bettors. A plus money over with a great matchup. No hype, just data. And that wraps it up for today's slate. 3 games, real data, and no guesswork. If you're tired of scrolling through hot takes and chasing trends, it's time to level up. Every matchup you saw today came straight from the Strikeout Predictor at splitlabs.net, where we break down every pitcher versus every lineup using the stats that actually matter. Want to see the full board? Visit splitlabs.net and use code YouTube at checkout to get off your first month, just for being here. Whether you're writing K-props every day or just betting the big matchups, the edge is in the data. Hit that subscribe, drop a like, and I'll see you in the next breakdown.